Today's date is August 23rd, 2026. We're having another Israeli-Palestinian Confederation simulation, this time with Raja Khouri and Jeffrey Wilkinson. We are proposing a federal government for the people of Palestine and Israel, a democracy based on a constitution, equality, separation between government and religion, and independent and separate from the Palestinian or the Israeli government. A government for the entire area of Israel-Palestine, including Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel, that has 15.5 million people. Our website is ipconfederation.org, and you can read the Constitution. It's available in 3 languages: English, Arabic, and Hebrew. If you go to the Constitution on our website in English or Arabic or Hebrew, you will see the preamble. Article 1 deals with the legislative branch with 300 parliament members. Article 2 with the executive branch. Article 3 with the judicial branch. All common to the Palestinian and Israeli people as equal. A common federal government for the entire area of Israel-Palestine. You could reach me at josephavasar@gmail.com. Our guests today, we have 2 guests that are authors of the same book. Raja Khouri is a Palestinian-Canadian author, human rights advocate, and consultant whose work focuses on building mutual understanding between Palestinians and Jews. He has extensive experience in civil society and public policy and has worked to advance human rights, inclusion, and constructive dialogue. Jeffrey Wilkinson is a Jewish American living in Canada, educator, writer, and longtime advocate for Palestinian Jewish dialogue and reconciliation. His work explores Jewish identity, Zionism, anti-Semitism, Palestinian rights, and the challenge of competing historical narratives. Their book is, or this is, I think, the 2nd edition, The Wall Between What Jews and Palestinians Don't Want to Know. The Wall Between What Jews and Palestinians Don't Want to Know About Each Other, a book examining the historical, emotional, and psychological barriers between Palestinians and Jews. Together, Khouri and Wilkinson bring Palestinians and Jewish perspective into direct conversation, challenging both communities to better understand each other's history, experiences, fears, and aspirations, while exploring possibilities for reconciliation and a future and shared future. Our next meeting will be on September 6th of this year. It's going to be another IPC elections strategic meeting. We are making progress, a lot of progress towards the election. We met last week with the European company that is going to conduct the election. We made substantial progress. I think we almost finished all the issues. We have another meeting with them this coming Tuesday, and hopefully everything will be signed next week. The idea is that they will start working in September, and we're finishing the portal by the end of December, where Palestinians and Israelis will be able to register to vote and to run in January of 2027. The registration will last a whole year, and then the election will be in 2028. We are demonstrating how a federal government could thread the needle. What does it mean? It means that it could pass legislation that both Palestinians and Israeli government will not be able to veto. Remember, they have a veto power over legislation that violates their sovereignty. But we believe that a federal government with political legitimacy will be able to pass legislation that neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian governments will be able to veto. Please use the chat to ask question, or you can ask question. Nasir is the administrator of the questions, and he will translate your comments into questions, but we are encouraging you to ask as many questions as possible in order to understand what we are proposing. This is a short 2-minute video that explains the IPC and how it
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So before each simulation, we conduct a survey, and we also compare it to a survey that is conducted at the end of the simulation. At this time, I would ask you to vote. Do you support a common federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine? If you do support, vote yes. If you do not support, vote no. If you do not know what it is, vote no, because you cannot support something that you do not know what it is. Please vote at this time. Give you another 15 seconds to vote. If you support, vote yes. If you do not support, vote no. If you don't know what it is, vote no. 5 more seconds to vote. Publish the votes, please. 15 out of 16 voted yes. That's 94%. And 1 voted no. That's 6%. We consistently see the same results, and it's probably because most of us have been in this simulation before and know what it is. Confederation and federal system exists worldwide to address specific conflicts, and their definitions vary and evolve. In the Israel-Palestine context, the IPC defines both federation and confederation in the same way, as set out in the Constitution, a shared democratic government for Israelis and Palestinians based on the principles outlined at www.ipconfederation.org. Basically, we define federation and confederation based on the Constitution in the same way. This is the heart of the simulation. We are asking you to make assumptions. And the first assumption is that we were able to obtain funding to create a year-long campaign promoting the election. That's what you need to assume, that funding was obtained and we were able to notify the people of Palestine and Israel that the elections are coming up and to make them aware that they can vote, meaning 15.5 million people can vote or were able to vote for the purpose of these simulations, and that the people of Israel, the West Bank and Gaza, Israel, Palestine, voted, and 5 million people actually voted. This is for the purpose of the simulation. From this point on in the simulation, we will assume that those assumptions have been reached. You'll have to assume that 3 million people, 3 million Palestinians have voted and 2 million Israelis have voted. You will have to assume that the president, me, Joseph, was elected president with 2 million votes, and the vice president received 1.5 million votes. She's a Palestinian lady. So that you know, I never intend to run for president. I'm not qualified constitutionally because I do not reside in either Israel or Palestine. But for the purpose of the simulation, just assume that I have been elected. Also assume that 300 parliament members were elected in 300 districts. We will ask you to act as parliament members representing your district. In other words, you are representing your district alone, not Israel or Palestine. I am the one, president, representing the entire area of Israel or Palestine. You will have to, and your responsibility as parliament member is to represent 52,000, approximately 52,000 people as part of your constituents. Before I go to Jeff and Raja, do any of you have questions regarding the assumptions? You have any questions? You can either raise your hand or ask or outright ask the questions, and then we'll go to Raja and Jeffrey. Okay, hearing no questions, so seeing no raised hands. Raja and Jeffrey, Raja, do you have any comments or questions regarding these assumptions?
No, I don't.
Okay, are you willing to accept these assumptions as have been achieved for the purpose of the simulation?
Yes.
Are you doubting the possibility that these assumptions in real life could be achieved?
No. No.
Okay. What about Jeffrey? Jeffrey, do you have any comments or
I,
questions?
I don't have any questions. Yes, I have doubts that these could be achieved.
Okay. And uh, what part of these assumptions in your mind are doubtful to be achieved?
That Israelis will participate at the scale that you have suggested.
The 2 million.
Yes, that is my first doubt. The second doubt is that the assumption of members, at least as of yet, I haven't heard the important issues in running of elections, like campaign financing, where you get money, how you get votes, who you're allowed to be able to solicit votes. These kind of things, I think, would have to be worked out to prevent against corruption.
Well, we have worked them out.
Okay.
The people of Palestine and Israel residing in the Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel will be the only people who will be able to vote
Right.
and to run.
And do you have any rules around outside influence in campaign financing?
Yes. Did you read the Constitution?
Yes, but I'm sure I missed parts.
Yeah. The Constitution specifically states the amount of money each parliament member will be able to spend, that they need to maintain records. I believe for parliament, don't quote me, is about $2,000 per parliament member and $30,000 per president and vice president.
Thank you.
And yeah, go ahead.
It's very good. The last thing I'll say here is that we all know that in Israel, as a government today, you cannot legally give money if you are not an Israeli citizen. Will there be some protection from outside influences from Europe, the US, etc., in who gives money to campaigns?
Well, we do not control the banking system. So we are not a government. We do not, but if a person spends more than that he agrees to based on the Constitution, that person is subject to being impeached if it is later on become an issue.
Thank you.
Any other areas of doubts that you have?
No.
All right. Okay, but you are willing to go along with the underlying assumption for the purpose of this simulation?
Absolutely.
Okay, and when we met, you agreed to assume the personality of Benjamin Netanyahu when you are when upon the legislation that gives you a veto power.
Reluctantly, yes.
Yes, and Raja, you agreed to be the president of Palestine.
Also reluctantly, yes.
Okay. So you guys have two roles: commentators, and when asked to be the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of Palestine, just to demonstrate how it will work. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to turn to the audience and ask them. This is the area of Israel Palestine that we are speaking about. Asking you, the audience, to act as parliament members representing a specific district in Israel Palestine, and to make a choice whether you are a parliament member representing Israeli district, a mixed district, meaning Palestinians and Israelis living together, or a Palestinian district. So at this time, unless you have questions regarding your participation as parliament member, please make a choice whether you are an Israeli parliament member or a Palestinian parliament member. And keep in mind what area of Israel Palestine you represent, because that question may come up. And you need to remain intellectually honest throughout the simulation to continue to represent your district as either a Palestinian or Israeli parliament member. So we have not, okay, I'll give you 10 more seconds to make a decision.
Can you make the map a little bit bigger? It's very hard to see.
The map, to make it bigger? I don't know how to do that. Let me see if I can, with my hand.
You have an option if you click on it to expand the screen and minimize the attendees. If you're using a desktop,
Yeah.
yeah, just scroll. Just there's a
Okay.
yeah. You should
All
be
right,
able to.
I'll do it in a second. I'll do
No, but
it
I
in a
think she
second.
should
I
be
don't
able
want to
to-
lose the voting.
Yeah, but
I'll
she can
publish
do
the
it.
votes.
Do you hear me? She can do it. She can do it if she just moves the tab of where the attendees are between the demonstration. She can actually move it. And make
Oh,
it bigger.
Libby can do it on her own. Okay. All right. So we have 10 Palestinian parliament members, and we have 8 Israelis. Perfect. All right. Okay. So now that we have a government elected, and we have, based on the simulation, on the assumptions, we are assuming all the things that we discussed in the assumptions. We are assuming that those have become true. And because of that, we have the first legitimate elected government in the area of Israel and Palestine with 300 parliament members. And the first order of business is to pass or to ratify the Constitution. Libby, would you be so kind as to read out the short version of the Constitution?
Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges, with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
So this is a short version of the long Constitution that I showed you at the beginning. In essence, we do not intend to undermine or remove or supplant any existing Israeli or Palestinian government. We also constitutionally are required to accept any agreements between those two governments. So that if they agree on borders between them or two states or whatever agreements they have between them, constitutionally, we are required to accept those agreements. We also give them a veto power over legislation that violates their sovereignty. So, Libby, could you read the portion explaining the granting of the veto power?
The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following. The government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable. The Palestinian government on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in the entirety of the Israeli or Palestinian governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed subject to the IPC Constitution. The Parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
Okay, so examples of indispensable issues, meaning issues that they get a veto power. If we pass legislation regarding the use of land or police force or removal of the wall, those governments, in this case, the government of Bibi Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas, are given a veto power. Example of dispensable, meaning they don't get a veto power. Issues relating to our budget, to ratifying the Constitution, appointing ministers, allocating our own funding, those are example that they are dispensable and they do not get a veto power. The reason we give them a veto power is because it provides a safety net to both sides, meaning the sides that support the Israeli and the Palestinian side. Increases the likelihood of Israelis and Palestinians' participation because they still have their own governments that if they trust and they want to maintain their system and their identity. It decreases Israeli and Palestinians' governments' opposition because they cannot claim that we are subversive and are trying to remove them. In fact, the opposite, we give them a veto power over our legislation. It gives legal protection to our candidates so that they are not concerned about being persecuted for trying to undermine the Israeli or Palestinian government. And it compels us, the federal government, to find the least objectionable legislation so that we can move towards peace and find ways towards peace, and neither the Israeli and the Palestinian governments will find it threatening to them. And it creates a platform for negotiations with a deadline. So before we ask let me ask the parliament members, now you are asked to ratify the Constitution. You must ratify the Constitution, otherwise you will be expelled, and the person who received the second number of votes in your district will be installed as parliament member. So before I go to Jeffrey and to Raja, let's ratify the Constitution, unless you have questions. Okay, so all Palestinians and Israeli parliament members, please ratify the Constitution. Do you ratify and pledge allegiance to the Constitution? Okay. And the polling. Share the results. 93% voted yes. One person voted no. Could that person please identify his or her name, or himself or herself? That person, if he is a parliament member, is expelled from parliament, and he's not in the parliament. He is expelled, and the person in his or her district will become president, and that person is not allowed to vote in the legislation because he has not accepted the ground rules, which is the Constitution. Now that we have a Constitution, this is a momentous event in the history of Israel-Palestine, in the history of the world, really. We never had that. The fact that we passed the Constitution and became a government is a momentous occasion. It undermines the existing government's use of fear and hate to justify their action. It removes the collective stigma against Israelis and Palestinians that we are incapable of making peace, that we are incapable of separating government from religion, and it provides a huge political capital to the president. I am the president. Now I have huge political capital because we have parliament, we have a constitution that was ratified, and it compels the governments and organizations to contribute to our success, both financially, politically, and economically. And it gives us, the people of Israel and Palestine, new self-image, a self-image of moving forward to making peace and to live together in peace with each other, and it provides the Israelis and the Palestinians are not a monolithic society. In other words, we can think, each society can think independently and can think about what is the best in their interest. So now, Jeffrey and Raja, put your commentator's hat on and tell us what you think about what you've just seen, the first federal government being elected, passing legislation, and ratifying the passing constitution and ratifying the constitution. Raja?
Well, I hope to work with this government and support it in the ways that I can. But you have to understand that every time we try to do something productive, the Israeli government gets in the way and distracts from the peaceful coexistence, and they create obstacles to everything. You need to understand that.
Oh, we do. That's why we create a federal government.
I just need clarification. I think there's a little misunderstanding. Are we at the moment acting as Raja and Jeff or as Netanyahu and Abbas?
I asked you to put your commentator's hat on.
Okay, because I'm guessing Raja answered it as Abbas. That's why I wanted to clarify.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay. So as a commentator, Raja, what are your comments?
As a commentator, it's it's a plausible scenario. The reality on the ground is, deep distrust and a lack of faith in any possibility of good things happening. So getting people on both sides to believe in this government and the need to participate in electing a government will be tough, but it's plausible, I think.
Well, you said, when I asked you about this, the assumptions, you said that those assumptions are achievable.
Achievable, yeah. It is possible. I'm saying it's plausible, but given the challenges of the last 80 years, there will always be obstacles. There will always be challenges coming from one party or the other. And if you look today at the Israeli government and the makeup of the Israeli government, those folks are clearly not interested in these kinds of solutions. They're trying to get the entire land of historic Palestine to be under Israeli authority.
Yeah, but if it is achievable, we understand the problem with the Israeli government. We didn't go through this exercise of election and electing 300 parliament members because of no reason. We understand the problem. We are focusing on a solution, and
I'm saying it's plausible.
I would think that you would be the happiest person in the world right now and express that, because we elected 300 parliament members. We have 5 million voters. We have a president. We have 300 parliament members. And I sense a little bit of skepticism on your part.
It comes with the territory when it comes to Israel, Palestine. But I'm saying it's plausible, and having elected 300 people, that's a huge achievement.
All right.
I would chime in that I think you invited us on to to be skeptical. At least I hope you did. Not because we don't admire what you're doing, because we wouldn't have agreed to do it if we didn't. And I'll comment briefly, but I'm much more interested in what the other people on the call would like to ask us and how to further and deepen the conversation. Our primary expertise is in diaspora conversations, but you can't talk with the diaspora without having a deep understanding of the history and present actions in Israel-Palestine. And so,
Jeffrey, you are avoiding the issue.
not yet.
Yeah,
What would you? What would? What issue? What
That's
issue
not
would
fair
you?
to us. That's
What?
not fair to us.
Okay. What issue? Tell me what issue.
The issue is the Constitution that was just passed,
Right.
that was just ratified, and with all due respect, you're ignoring all of that, and you say, "Well, let's have the audience talk about your
Okay.
book." And
No. I didn't. You know what? I'm not sure how to respond because I don't know if this is part of the exercise, but being combative with your guests, I don't see how that's going to be helpful. When I say I want to hear from the audience, it has nothing to do with our book. It's that we're deeply interested in building understanding. And so I certainly thought that part of the conversation was that people would be able to ask us what things are like on the ground, what the challenges are. If that's not what you want now, if you're asking me to respond to the Constitution,
I'm showing you a slide.
Right.
I'm showing you we did a vote. We went through the exercise,
Right.
and I'm asking you to comment on what you have seen.
Okay.
And I don't hear a single
Okay.
comment
So,
from you.
but
on
to
that
be
of
fair,
what
to
you
be
have
fair,
seen.
Jeffrey might not be aware of how we do simulations. Jeffrey,
Right.
we do when we do the simulations, we focus on the actual simulation, and then afterwards we have a period where audience will be able to ask and you'll be able
Okay.
to comment.
Wonderful.
That's typically maybe that wasn't explained to you, and maybe you're not familiar with our format, but I
Okay.
think this is what Joseph means.
Sure.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So I'm perfectly clear. What you want to know is what is my response to the Constitution based on the fact that we've now achieved this election. Is that correct?
And ratify the Constitution. Yes.
And ratified the Constitution. My concerns and thoughts would be looking at the history of peace building. The Constitution, as in many ways it should, which the absence of a constitution in Israel is part of the big problem, it's really addressing the future. In my experience, without addressing the past, you can't address the future. So I hold a basic skepticism, not around the values of the Constitution, which I 100% support, but on the idea that if you are going to have Palestinians buy into this Constitution, there has to be some kind of notion of understanding that the past has been deeply unfair and harmful to them. And that's what's missing for me, and that's what my comment is for now.
All right. But you are you're in agreement with the Constitution.
There's nothing in the Constitution that I disagree with in any way, and in fact, I'll say clearly that our sort of viewpoint is, in all of our work, is to look at a universal moralism. And I think you address that very, very well. You don't separate rights into identities or power. You call them as universal. And I entirely support that premise.
Shlomo, do you have a question regarding the Constitution?
No. I thought we start the conversation. I will wait.
Okay, thank you. All right. So now that we passed the Constitution, we have a federal government. We are moving forward. And the first issue that we need to legislate is the future governance of Gaza. Libby, would you be so kind as to pass that legislation? And now, Jeffrey and Raja, you will be wearing your government hats. Libby?
All right. So the introduction. The Gaza region, with a population of 2.3 million people, elected 44 members to parliament and legislation. 1. The destinies of the Israeli and Palestinian peoples are inseparably linked. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation provides a democratic vision for stability, prosperity, and peace. 2. The IPC declares an immediate and unconditional ceasefire. We are demanding the Israeli and Palestinian governments to abide by the ceasefire agreements. In addition, prior to the construction campaign, the Israeli troops will withdraw from Gaza. All military weapons shall be removed from Gaza by all entities. During the transition period, a police force will continue to function in Gaza. The IPC will negotiate for an international force to provide order and safety for the region. 3. The IPC shall launch a national reconstruction campaign to rebuild homes, roads, hospitals, civic institutions, and critical infrastructure, enabling the prompt return of displaced residents of Gaza to their communities. 4. The IPC proclaims the restoration of law, order, and civil society as a national priority, recognizing that peace is impossible without justice and social stability. 5. The IPC shall retain authority over the Gaza Strip until a new, freely and fairly elected Palestinian government assumes power in Gaza in accordance with democratic principles. The Palestinian Authority and Hamas shall agree to hold an elections within a year for the creation of a Palestinian government. 6. All legislative, executive, and judicial decisions related to Gaza shall be enacted by the IPC government pursuant to the IPC Constitution in cooperation with the government of the United States, all Arab states in the region, and the government of Israel and Palestine. And 7. The IPC calls upon the international community, including the governments of Israel and Palestine, to provide a $50 billion grant to fund this urgent reconstruction and reconciliation effort. This is pursuant to Article 2, Section 21 of the IPC Constitution. The Israeli and the Palestinian governments are granted veto power over this act.
So basically, we are passing legislation that we will be the exclusive, we are the legitimate government in the entire area of Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza, Israel and Palestine. But with regard to Gaza, we will be the exclusive government until the Palestinian elect a legitimately democratic government, at which point they will be the government of Gaza with our government in accordance with the Constitution. And we would like to start rebuilding Gaza as soon as possible. And we are asking for the world community to allocate $50 billion for us to manage the reconstruction of Gaza. Before I go to Raja and Jeffrey and give them a veto power, we will need to vote on that. Before I go to the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of Palestine, do any of you have questions regarding this legislation, including questions by Raja and Jeffrey as commentators? So you're now commentators, and then you'll be President and Prime Minister. Raja, do you have any questions regarding this legislation?
No.
Jeffrey, do you have any questions?
As commentator, no.
Yes.
As commentator, I do not have any questions.
Okay. Do the audience have questions? Okay. Let's go to a vote. We need 55% of the Palestinian parliament members to agree to accept this legislation. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members to vote. We need 55% of you to vote yes on this legislation in order to pass it. Palestinian parliament members, 10 more seconds to vote. Publish the vote. 88% of the Palestinian parliament members voted yes on this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. We need 55% of the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Israeli parliament members representing your district. We need 55% of you to vote yes on this legislation. 10 more seconds to vote. Publish the vote. 100% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. So we have a almost unanimous consent by the parliament, both Palestinians and Israelis. And I am the president. Of course, I am blessing this legislation. Now let's go to the president of Palestine. Mr. President of Palestine, are you going to veto this legislation?
Well, the president of Palestine is not sure why the Palestinian government has to contribute to rebuilding Gaza when it was Israel that destroyed it.
Well, because we want to have as much money as possible to rebuild.
Yeah, but we don't have any money.
Well, you do. You do. I know you're getting money from taxes. You have imports into the West Bank, and you're getting a lot of import money. You have high tech.
Yeah, but what, I mean,
does it look good for you when you say we want to rebuild Gaza, but we don't want to spend a dime?
we did not destroy Gaza. It was Israel that destroyed Gaza.
Okay,
that's the point.
Yeah, we don't want to be sucked into who is fault. We want to move into the future.
Fine, I will not vote. Veto then.
You will not veto it.
I will not veto.
Okay, good. Thank you. Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
Yes. Forgive me all as Jeff. Just let me be Benjamin for a moment. If you could go back to the first slide of the governments of Gaza, just 1 to 4. The very first statement provides a democratic vision for stability, prosperity, and peace. You don't mention security. You can't possibly suggest that my government accept any solution that leaves terrorists in power, that does not provide for Israeli security, does not allow our forces to draw clear lines along the yellow line. And how could you possibly think we would be so completely anodyne to look at such a ridiculous proposal? And I veto the proposal.
So if we add the word security, you will not veto this legislation?
Would you define security, and who has the power over the security?
Peace is security. The lack of violence is security. So we think peace is the only security.
Are you allowing the presence of the IDF to ensure security in case your ideas don't actually work?
You have unilaterally gone into Gaza without our permission. It doesn't make sense that now you would ask for our permission. We are seeking peace. We don't want to play with words.
I don't need your permission. I'm the Prime Minister of Israel. I don't need your permission.
So why do you ask for it?
I'm simply saying, are you going to prevent my security forces for ensuring security of our people in the demarcation line in Gaza.
We have no military. We are not a military organization. We have no military.
So you
We are
would,
we are a
right.
legitimately democratic elected government. Of We have 42 parliament members from Gaza, 44, I'm sorry, parliament members from Gaza. We are representing the people of Gaza. You have no plan whatsoever to rebuild Gaza, and you have no plan for the security of Israel or Gaza. So, what is the problem in letting us rebuild Gaza?
This is an aside from Jeff. Do you remember who Benjamin Netanyahu is?
I do.
Benjamin Netanyahu in no way would ever accept such a plan. And if you want me to play Benjamin Netanyahu, I have to veto the plan.
Okay. All right. Look, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
There is no point in beating this to death.
Okay.
But the point we are making is that we actually have more legitimacy than the government of Israel and the government of Palestine. Okay? And we can use that legitimacy in order to force the government of Israel and Palestine to agree to a reasonable legislation. That's the point of this legislation. So I'll move on.
How about can I ask a question from Jeff? So Jeff, you're absolutely right. And not to mention that we have a similar plan right now, so-called ceasefire, that is being rejected by the Netanyahu in real life. So we know for a fact what you're saying is true. But in your role as prime minister, could you submit something back to us? And this is the purpose, because somebody asked a question about the veto power. So this is an example of the veto. So what would you propose different that we can adjust so that we can come back to you and say, this is something that you will approve as well as the Palestinian prime minister would approve? If you don't mind, I ask this question, Joseph.
I think it's a wonderful question. And if I'm playing Benjamin Netanyahu, you know that he would simply give you the middle finger to that request. So if you're looking at the possibility of some miracle where, for example, an Arab party or a combination of coalition party, including the new People for All party, were in power, then absolutely, I would absolutely be in negotiation with you and would ask for very small modifications, which would include understanding that the Israeli populace is wired and geared by fear and victimhood. Do not see the Palestinians as an oppressed people, but as people who are a threat to them. And so even a very left-wing leader would require some assurances for the sake of his citizens to feel that while this plan is being put in place, that there is some form of military security. That's not what I would say as a liberal leader, but it was what I would say because people would never elect me if I didn't say it. I hope that answer is satisfactory.
Well, I mean, yeah, but what I'm saying is there anything specific here that we can change that would be
not for Netanyahu, but for a reasonable government? I think the only thing that I would ask to change from a reasonable government is to address some form of interim security arrangement.
There are two words in Gadi Eisenkot. His announcement today, I think, kind of below that there's no such thing as a modern government. Yeah, okay.
Right. There isn't. Of course there isn't. I'm already engaged in fantasy.
Yeah. So therefore, this is an example of how the veto power, and if the veto power cannot be resolved, how basically a proposed legislation is basically killed. And sometimes we can change things, modify it so that it can be passed, but sometimes it's pretty much hopeless.
Right.
All right. I think we made this legislation really clarified and with the help of Raja and Jeffrey and Nasir, clarified how this federal government could work now and could work in the future. And I think that's extremely important. Let's go to the next legislation, make peace with Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
We, the elected members of Parliament of the Confederation Government of Israel, Palestine, affirm our responsibility to serve the people of this land with integrity, accountability, and an unwavering commitment to peace. For more than a century, the peoples of Israel, Palestine, and the broader Middle East have endured recurring cycles of war, violence, and instability. From Iran to Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and beyond, generations have suffered from the failure of governments and political actors to secure lasting peace. We believe that a new path is necessary. Accordingly, we are taking the initiative to safeguard all people living in Israel, Palestine, and to advance a vision of regional stability that can extend across the Middle East. Peace for our peoples cannot remain an aspiration. It must become a deliberate and organized effort. To end this, we will establish official parliamentary delegations to engage directly with the authorities of Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and Iran. The purpose of these delegations is to open channels of dialogue, promote mutual de-escalation, and work toward binding commitments to cease violence and threats among all parties.
Just a second.
Continuing, our role will be to advocate firmly for an immediate cessation of hostilities and incitement, mutual recognition of the right of all peoples in the region to live in security and dignity, structured negotiations aimed at achieving durable and verifiable peace. We will serve as an impartial facilitator and promoter of peace, guided by fairness, objectivity, and the protection of our people. Where governments or entities endanger regional stability or threaten civilian life, we will speak clearly and responsibly. Our commitment is to peace, security, and a future in which the peoples of this region can finally live without fear. This is pursuant to Article 2, Section 21 of the IPC Constitution. Neither the Israeli nor the Palestinian government holds veto authority over this act.
Libby, this is pursuant, because the legislation is Article 2, Section 21 deals with a veto power exclusively, not the legislation. So we are the people of Palestine and Israel. We are suffering from irresponsible governments that have proven their irresponsibilities towards us. We want to live in peace. We want to live in security, just like normal people in other parts of the world. So we would like to investigate ourselves. What are the issues between Israel and the other governments of the world? And we would like to explore peace. So the government of Israel and Palestine are not giving us veto power over this legislation, but we would love to hear from them if they would cooperate. But we are proposing to create our own delegation to go to all these countries and discuss openly and find out what are the issues in order to have peace once and for all in the area of the Middle East. Before I go to Raja and Jeffrey as the president and the prime minister of Israel, or you can act as commentator as you did before. the audience have any questions regarding this legislation?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. It does seem to me, or perhaps any other reasonable person, that this is all fantasy talk. Israel is occupying and bombing the Lebanon. Israel wants to extend and set up settlements in the Lebanon. Syria, the same thing. Turkey is a big problem. Iran at the moment is holding the cards for any future agreement over the Straits of Hormuz. The US will be mortified on it, which is what they deserve. It's the end of their empire, so to speak, but it's going to take a long time. So all of this, I mean, it's praiseworthy. Of course, it's praiseworthy.
Olivia, what part of it is fantasy talk? What part of it?
I'd have to sort of enlarge it with my two fingers and read it. Make peace with Iran, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria. Well, I mean.
What are we destined to live in war with all these countries forever?
I of course hope not.
So what part of it is fantasy war?
To make peace with the Lebanon at the moment would be rather awkward because Israel is bombing the Lebanon. So
when you want to make peace with them, wait until when? At what point?
It would take me a long time to talk about the role of the US and the fact that they put a head chopper in Syria. That's a failed state due to Western interference over more than 2 decades. To undo all that, to unravel all that, and to just talk about the history of Syria and Lebanon would take a very long time. And the hypothetical.
No, we want to do it. We want to do it right away. We don't want to wait until they destroy each other, Olivia.
Well, there's a head chopper. There's a head chopper at the head of the government in Syria, and he's supported by the Islamists in Turkey and MI6 and Israel. Blah blah blah. And Israel and Turkey will come to war because their agendas clash. So it goes beyond a discussion now. But our two kind guests would be very good people to talk about that. They've been studying, presumably, I think so, studying the Middle East for a long, long time. And we all want peace. Wouldn't it be lovely? But I think
it sounds like you don't want peace. You want the war to continue until something happens. Well, that's what it sounds to me like. Because we want to have delegations right away. All right.
It's what people that are producing arms want. I'm not producing arms. It's what people selling arms. It's
so
the MI6.
you say it's fantasy talk. You say it's fantasy talk.
That the IPC think that the IPC can intervene and create peace with the Lebanon, with Syria, especially Syria. My God, God help the Syrians. That is fantasy. It could happen perhaps if we had 30 years, 20 years or 30 years. And Iran, my God. Iran,
we
want
to have peace immediately. We are the people of Palestine and Israel.
I understand that. So do I. But that is the fantasy element. But it's not going to be possible.
Look, as the president of the area, I find what you said highly offensive. You're saying to ignore our role. We have been legitimately elected. We want to create peace. We want to. I am the president. I would like to protect my people in Israel, Palestine, and I want to create delegations to go into all these areas to create peace. And you're saying this is fantasy talk. So what are you proposing? That we will just wait until these failed governments destroy our people? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what they're doing. They're killing people.
I understand that's what they're doing. You're pointing out to the problem, but you're not dealing with the solution.
I understand that,
all right.
Joseph. I understand that. I understand, how totally, how totally impotent I feel vis-a-vis this.
Let's take a vote.
Would you,
I'm attracted to a thing called reality on the ground. That's what I find
important. Can I say something?
Let's have Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation. Palestinian parliament members.
And Jeffrey's trying to comment too.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll wait till after the vote.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, please wait in. The voting is a good way to calm things down. Okay. Publish the votes. We need 55% of the Palestinian parliament members to agree on this legislation. We got 89%. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Dan, can you change the vote to Israeli? Yes, Israeli parliament members, do you support this legislation? We need 55% of the Israeli parliament members to vote yes on this legislation in order for it to pass. Okay, publish the vote. We got 100% of the Israeli parliament members to vote yes on this legislation. Jeffrey, you could decide you want to be a commentator or do you want to be
No, I will definitely be a commentator. So I'm just going to offer for a moment that, I mean, I'm sure some of you have been engaged in this a long time. This is my first time. Raj and I have had a couple of, medium length conversations with Joseph. I want to offer to you that when you try something that's really, really difficult, that no matter who is speaking, that you allow opportunities for people to address, to really talk about their reservations, their fears. In this short call, each time someone has offered something, it's been met with a very assertive message of why don't you agree with us? And I'm just going to offer you, since you invited us on this call, that the platform of how you work together in doing anything difficult has to be to allow time and space for people to work through their concerns, not to try to, just kind of insist that they agree with you. This is unsolicited advice. I'm offering it to you, and I hope you will consider it.
I am considering this, and
Okay.
I think you're pointing out to me, but I think you don't understand that this is a simulation.
Oh.
We are simulating a government, and we are and part of in a government you have a lot of emotions and you have arguments, and that's normal. But could you comment on what's before you?
Yes, of course. Of course. I'm going to ask, if I could, for my dear friend and colleague Raja to at least comment first, as he is much, much more well-versed in the larger Middle East body politic. And I hope you're willing to do that, Raja. And sorry for doing that to you, but I think you'll have a much broader answer than I would.
Well, the history of Palestinians and Arabs with Israel has always been one of an expansionist state. Today it not only occupies the Golan Heights, but there are areas that were occupied recently in Syria. Lebanon has had many Israeli invasions and limited occupations, and now we're back. Part of Lebanon is occupied. Of course, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza are occupied. And there doesn't seem to be, the appetite for expansion, as it is, been demonstrated recently very vividly by the current Israeli government. So I think that's, reversing that. Putting limits on it would appear very difficult. For instance, will Israel ever leave the Golan Heights? The United States has already recognized the Golan Heights as being part of Israel. The rest of the world community hasn't. But who's gonna take them out? Israel has always had ambitions in Lebanon and Lebanon's water. The Litani River is not a coincidence that every time there is there's an invasion of Lebanon, the Litani River becomes the point at which Israel says nothing should happen south of the river. We're going to control it. So Iran had a history of meddling. It supported Hezbollah. It supported Hamas. It meddles, so it's a meddlesome regime. It's trying to expand its influence in the region by destabilizing other governments. I don't consider Yemen to be a problem as such, but the idea of peace, requires a sense of Israel and Israeli government and every other government under these governments to have a stake that is very appealing to their populace, and it's kind of hard to ignore. And as long as Israel maintains qualitative military superiority and technological one, I'm afraid it's hard to see them being limited.
As the Prime Minister, as the President of Palestine, do you have any comments regarding these legislation?
As the President of Palestine, I would say
you don't have authority to veto it.
I get that, but my concern would be that Iran, that supported Hamas, needs to stop meddling in inter-Palestinian affairs.
Do you have any objection to us, the Parliament, going into delegation of our Parliament going into all these countries to explore peace?
No, I don't.
And as the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Prime Minister, do you have any comments regarding our legislation here?
I was so hoping my Netanyahu days were over. I mean, I have many comments of what I believe Netanyahu would say, but I'm going to leave it just as Jeff. I'm going to leave out Netanyahu. He doesn't have a right at this moment, in my view, to say anything about a situation that he has largely caused. So I will reserve his rights and talk, really, really support what Raja said and say as Jeff that peace and justice must always be linked.
All right.
And I would like to see a lot more emphasis in each of these things that are about justice, that look at past, look at reparations, that peace, for, like Martin Luther King said, is not just the absence of violence, but the presence of justice. Mm-hmm. And that's my feedback to the group.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff? And
of course.
Do you feel that the way this is structured, sort of, because this is a concern that many people have had, and even kind of I almost have this concern, is that this structure...
Sir, can you wait until we have the open discussion? Because I want to...
Okay. Yeah. Okay, because it kind of...
All right, let's have the post-simulation survey. After participating in the simulation, do you support a federal government? Okay, publish the vote. Pretty much the same results. One person, is that the same person voted no and before and no after. Could you identify yourself? The person who voted no? All right.
I think I can guess who they are, but if they don't want to come out, they don't want to come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just so that you know, the election portal will be operational by the end of 2026. In other words, in 4 months from now. The voter registration will start January 2027 and end in December 2027. It's voter and candidate registration. The election will start on January 1st, 2028, and will end on March 30th, 2028. And hopefully in April 2028, we will have a federal government elected by the people of Palestine and Israel. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Nasir.
Yeah, before you do that, I just need 2 minutes. Go ahead, let Sean go before me, and then I need like 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay, Lama, go ahead.
Okay, so much to talk about. First of all, the Olivia, yeah, this is maybe a pie in the sky, but this is a simulation. And unfortunately, as time goes on, we get farther and farther and farther from the reality on the ground. We are talking about a genocide all over. We are talking about erasing the Palestinians completely. We are talking about destroying Lebanon. I mean, talking even for Russia, I'm sorry to disagree that Iran meddling here and there. We cannot say anything about Iran and not about Hezbollah. Absolutely nothing. We have no right to criticize them, and in proportion to the genocide, the Holocaust that is ongoing, everything becomes, it's dwarfed. So with all this in mind, there are two questions. First of all, what is the probability of this kind of operation, of initiative that Josef has been working for all these years to succeed? I would give it 1%, but for this 1%, I will continue. There is no other alternative, but this 1% that maybe eventually something will come out of it. Okay, now I have questions to both Raja and Jeffrey. Yeah, Jeffrey. So I'm curious. So you got to look. I understand you made peace in Canada, and I made peace here in the United States where I live. Nice. We all know that there is no difference between us, Jews, Israel, even Israelis, and Palestinians. We are all humans, and that's it. But in Israel now, in the Middle East, the situation is terrifying, is horrific, and you know that, and you know also, I'm sure, that the Israeli society is totally insane. And it is, here in this initiative, we don't have even one Israeli. I am originally from Israel, but I am American, and so is Nasir, and others. So we don't have anybody from the region to even be represented in this initiative. So those are but I'm curious to know what do you think? What are you doing, and what do you think the result of what you're doing will be?
Lomo, I agree with every word you say. Sorry to interrupt the others. I agree with every word. You and I always agree about everything, Slomo. And I wish you'd stop writing. Okay, let's listen to our guest.
Okay. All right. No, it's great, and I really appreciate the sentiments. How do I begin? And I want to do it sort of in a short time. I think I want to say to you that what our experience has been is a little bit different than what you said, Shlomo, here in Canada and parts of the U.S. that we've worked in. which is that in many ways, even though we have no bombs dropping on us and we do not have the threat of violence in our streets, I'm Jewish. My Jewish community has been governed by what I would call a deeply irrational sense of fear, which was deeply exacerbated by October 7th, where we have turned the victim idea around to feel like we are the victims. And that this is so pervasive in mainstream Jewish culture. Obviously, there's many, many Jews who completely agree with you and me. But in mainstream Jewish culture, and Canada, if you don't know, is quite a bit more conservative in the Jewish community for a number of reasons, which are complicated. I could talk about it another time. But I think the key is that in many ways we reflect the lack of empathy that you see in Israeli society, that we have become so narcissistic, so inward, that we absolutely refuse to look at what we are doing. We use a morality that is inward, that says, if it's good for me, it's okay, instead of a morality that is outward, that is universal, that says that impact is way more important than my intentions. And if I harm someone, I cannot pretend that I didn't mean to harm them and make that okay. So I want to make sure that you all hear that I applaud any effort to make this better, because anything's better than what we have now. And yours is way better. The only challenge I would give you is that unless there is a serious attempt to address the 80 years of harm, not just to Palestinians as individuals, but as Palestinian society, you have no chance in hell of getting 10 Palestinians to come out and be part of your parliament. That is my main concern as a Jew, is that you have to earn their trust. And if for me to support you more, I need to see ways that you earn their trust. And I hope you don't mind my directness.
Yeah. No, let me respond to that. The only entity that would be able to address the injustice to the Palestinian is a federal government, because it would be created by Palestinians and Israelis. And Palestinians would be equal in that federal government. To say after almost 80 years that justice has to come first, when justice has been denied to the Palestinians since 80 years, 750,000 Palestinians have been expelled and they received no justice. Palestinians have lived under occupation, under apartheid, under genocide, and no justice. And to say, well, we need justice first, it doesn't make sense. We need to have a system to deliver justice. And the federal government, in which Palestinians and Israelis will be together as equal, is the best way to address the issues of the past and the issues of the justice. Palestinian governments have not addressed the issues of the past. The Israeli governments have not addressed the issues of the past. This is a system that would require dealing with the issues of the past.
So in a way, this kind of goes into my question, if you don't mind, because I know, Jeff, you look like you really want to comment on that.
No, I'll wait. I'm happy to wait.
So the issue with that is that I'm going to say two things: one in support of what Joseph is saying, and one to not contradict him, but to respond to that. Is that a lot of people, they see this as the solution rather than the beginning to a solution, and I think that's very important. But the downfall to that is whenever we have this kind of approach, and Oslo is a perfect example of it. It was supposed to be the beginning of the solution. It wasn't supposed to be the solution, but it sort of became the status, how should I say, the permanent status quo, modified here, modified there. So rather than a 5-year, it became a permanent. And that's what my question was about you, was that do you see, because I get what you're saying 100%, because Palestinians, we're always told it's going to get better. Just accept this for now, be good boys, and eventually the Israelis will realize what nice people you are and accept you into the international this. And it's like here we are 35 years later, in a worse situation than we are now. And they will say, well, do you see, we gave you a chance and you did October 7th on us. After 35 years of us waiting and doing this, and you did an October 7th, which just proves that you're just not worthy of anything. And we're going to go back to not just 1948, we're going to go back to even worse situation than 1948. So maybe my question to you was, do you feel that the way that the Confederation has been structured is sort of preserving this injustice, sort of protecting it, not protecting it, but preserving it, and it's so kind of entrenched in it, which I feel is also part of Israeli society, this whole notion that Palestinians should live under their foot is entrenched in their DNA. But is this the concern that you're addressing? Because that's what I'm sensing. And from both you and Raja, I think that this is kind of the concern. And from a Palestinian perspective, with somebody, with home in Jerusalem and family, etc., this is what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about the present. I'm concerned about how will it be used to continue to legitimize the occupation? Will it be continued, because we're sitting here right now in something called a ceasefire. And in this ceasefire, we've lost almost 1,300 people. Now, if it was 1,300 Jews who died during something called a ceasefire, we would not even use the word ceasefire. It would be like, it wouldn't exist. And this is what I find, that this has to be removed from the mentality of this conversation, and I think that's where you're coming from. And I'm just seeing, how do we reconcile that with this?
May I speak?
Yeah, you're gonna speak after. Actually, yeah, you'll be the next person.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can raise your hand, but I see that you. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
No, I'm good. I'm waiting for whoever wanted to speak there.
You didn't want to respond to what I...
No, I do. Okay. I just didn't want to interrupt a participant. I'm happy to respond.
Can we respond to both me and Joseph, and then we'll take from Mark?
Sure.
Yeah.
Raja, did you have something specific to respond to what Nasser said?
It's go ahead, and then I will speak.
Okay. Yes, I think you've tried to articulate very much, and I want to say something that's really, I think, very essential. I don't see justice and peace as steps on a ladder. I see them as a platform that must be achieved more or less simultaneously. So I don't suggest for a minute that you have to wait for justice, for absolute justice, in order to have peace. My only challenge to you really was to say, to have a notion that you're having equal representation of Palestinians and Israelis at this moment if you are doing this, actually doing this, would require Palestinians to feel a sense that this is not another Oslo, that this will not lead to more destruction, more pain. And that's what I think. And I'm really glad that you tied it to Oslo, because I think that is really the perfect sort of metaphor for why Palestinians would feel. I mean, Raja has helped me so much over our relationship to really understand that to be Palestinian is to wait and hope and be disappointed. And I don't want them to be disappointed again.
Look, Israel is a creation of the West. It has been maintained by the West. It has been supported with complete support, and it can act and has acted with impunity. And even when it was committing genocide, the West didn't do anything to stop it. In fact, the U.S. continued to arm Israel. So we are finally beginning to see some pushback in the West. But even if, yesterday or the day before, there was a statement that came out of 11 countries, Canada and Norway and Australia and France. And it was really, really mild statement considering what's going on in the West Bank. we're the West, we are still giving Israel a lot of leeway to commit the crimes it has been committing. I mean, look at how many countries Israel attacked in the last 3 years. Starting the war with Iran, for instance. It's out of control. It's a fighting machine. It used to be said about Pakistan that it's a military with a country other than a country with a military. Israel has become like that too. The West started this problem. The West needs to end it. The minute the West says to Israel, it's enough, it will be enough.
Israel is a problem. Israel is the problem. It's not the solution. We are not under the illusion that Israel will solve the problem. This is not another Oslo because it's not an agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. It's a different system where Palestinians and Israelis are together as equal under a constitution.
But will the West support this confederation government, or will it continue to support Israel? I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
The West, in all likelihood, will continue to support Israel because it has its own reasons. The people of Palestine and Israel have to take their future into their own hands. And you cannot just wait until the West decides to change your fortune, to change the fortune of the Palestinians. This is, in essence, the people of Palestine and Israel together saying to the whole world, leave us alone. We want to deal with our problems by ourselves.
The Middle East hasn't been left alone in over 100 and some years.
Yeah. History is not our prisoner.
Yeah.
We are not prisoners of history. History can change. It has changed. Countries have been created, including the U.S. government was created based on a constitution, and other countries have been too. We cannot be tied down by history. We can change history, the future.
By the way, Mark Susselman.
Can we? Yeah. We're gonna go in order. Go ahead, Mark, and then Libby, Sean, and then Shlomo.
So I decided to participate in this, and I joined the aspirations. I'm hopeful for peace, etc. I am an attorney in Michigan, United States. I am one of the most liberal-minded Jews in the United States you could ever hope to find. I have been sending emails weekly to various Jewish organizations in the United States criticizing Netanyahu and his government, including Tikva, the ADL, the ZOA, various rabbis throughout the United States. Alan Hayberton, I see he's joining this program. He lives in the same area as I do, and he can confirm this. Of all the people I've sent these emails to, Alan Haber is the only one who has responded favorably to my emails. I've gotten negative pushback by only 2 other American Jews in the Ann Arbor area. The Ann Arbor area, which is considered one of the most liberal areas in the United States, have given me pushback. And the idea that the Confederation can pass legislation which Israel, with the caveat that Israel is precluded from vetoing it, is frankly ridiculous. Israel will veto whatever it damn well pleases. And the only way, in my opinion, that this proposed confederation is to work is if you get the support of American Jews and American pocketbooks to criticize Israel and criticize today Netanyahu. And I'll tell you this, I am very critical of Israel, but for this organization to say that all the wrong is on the part of the Jews and on the part of Israel, and none of the wrong came from the Palestinians, I don't agree with. I think is ahistorical and will be rejected by American Jews. And without their support, you will get nowhere. That's all I have to say.
All right. Not all Jews think the same in America.
Most Jews do. I don't think you're out of touch, sir. With all due respect.
Well, even if most Jews do think the same,
a majority, a vast majority, they consider it disloyal to criticize Israel, as I have done.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you want to know why we are criticizing Israel, it goes further than that. I personally criticize Zionism because Zionism is an ideology that is against equality, that is against equality for Jews when it started in Europe, telling the Jews that they are not equal citizens and they have to leave their country, and then coming into Palestine and creating a Jewish state, which is in itself unreasonable position, not only from that it doesn't make sense from a democratic point of view, it also does not make sense from a practical point of view when the large majority by far were not Jewish. And to come to the area and said, we are now wanting to create a Jewish state, quite frankly, is the source of the problem. Integration of religion and government in Israel, Palestine, is the source of the problem. And then on top of that, expelling 750,000 Palestinians from Palestine. And to say, well, we are now a democracy where you expel 750,000 people that would have been voters in that democracy doesn't make sense. And then occupying the Palestinians and having them living under apartheid and under occupation for almost 70 years is anti-democratic, anti-human rights. So if you say most Jews support all of that, I doubt that that's the case. I don't think it's the case.
True.
But if you think most Jews support all of that, obviously they're not going to support what we are proposing. But Jews are not the only people in the world. There are other people that would support the federal government. Some will be Jews, some will be Palestinians, some will be human rights advocates from all over the world. And it is the idea that we are dependent on Jews that support Israel doesn't make sense. And it's not what we're not looking for their support, because those Jews that support Israel and accept Zionism will never support us. In addition, they are not supporters of peace, and they are themselves hypocritical because they live in a government, under a government, a federal government that separates between religion and government, but they support a Jewish state that integrates government and religion. So to say, well, let's wait for this hypocritical group of people to support us simply does not make sense.
May I ask you a question, sir?
please.
You're aware, you're an intelligent person, and you know history. You're aware, I'm sure, that there are 19 countries on earth which have in their legislation and they declare Islam as their national religion. And they are not democracies. So why would you say Zionism is undemocratic when there are these 19 countries that have Islam as their national religion, and where Jews would not have been allowed to, in fact, they threw a lot of Jews out. I mean, so why is it unfair? Why is it undemocratic for Jews who have lived, and I don't appeal to the Bible. I don't agree that Hashem gave Judea and Samaria to the Jews for eternity. I don't agree with that. But Jews have been in that area since the Roman destruction of the Second Temple. And they've been there continuously. And they have as much right to be there as Arabs. And the Arabs control 19 countries on earth. But Jews are not allowed to have a right in a single country on earth? And because you're anti-Zionist?
Yeah,
Okay.
you asked me a question. Let me respond to that question.
Sure.
First of all, if you have 19 of your friends jump off the roof, that does not make sense for you to jump off the roof. It doesn't give you the right to jump off the roof. So if
why are you going to Egypt?
they're not democratic.
Come on.
They're not democratic.
I don't understand this guy's position. So just because I muted you because you're screaming. So I ask you, if Egypt, which says their religion, their state of the religion is Islam, they have 10% of the population is Christians. Christians in Egypt do carry Egyptian passports. They can vote. They participate. They're citizens just like others. In Europe, you have states that also have Christianity as the state religion, the Church of England. But yet people who are Jewish and Muslim in England have the same rights as people who are Christian. So if you want to do a comparison, let's compare to that. Jews live in Iran. There are about 3,000 Jews who live in Iran. There are thousands of Jews who live in Morocco. They are citizens. So don't come to me with these comparisons. And then when you say to me, a Palestinian, go live in Egypt, do you tell a Guatemalan to go live in Argentina because he speaks Spanish? So don't come here with your European racist attitude, colonial attitude, to say an Arab is an Arab, whether he's from Morocco or from Iraq. I'm a Palestinian. I'm from Palestine. I have nothing to do with Morocco or Iraq or Saudi Arabia. They speak the same language as me, but they're not mine. This is your European colonial mentality. Please take that somewhere else. Go ahead, Libby.
Ooh. A lot going on here. First, I want to thank Jeffrey and Raja for all your work for many years in bringing the Jews and the Palestinians together. I've had my own experience with that. My husband and I started a Jewish-Palestinian dialogue here in California 33 years ago, and the dialogue continues to this day. And I would say that the most important thing that we get from our regular meetings is getting to know each other through sharing personal stories, our back history, what we believe to be real, and we help each other understand each other, make a heart connection and a head connection. And I believe that right now we are living at a very, very important time. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard that our president is actually currently threatening Iran with a nuclear bomb. And he, in my opinion, is crazy enough that he would do it, that he would just say, that's the way we're going to work because those people deserve it. So we're living at a time where nuclear weapons have increased. We are threatening each other with it. It's a very unstable world today. And a lot of people for many, many, many decades have looked to the Middle East for inspiration and a solution. And I can remember as a young child thinking that Jerusalem, the city of peace and brotherly love, was going to model for the rest of the world a peaceful living community. So I think that's one of the things that has drawn me to this activity, is it provides some sense of possibility. It And what I think is very creative is the idea that a group of people can go to the other countries, the neighboring countries, and invite them to the table. In other words, work as a larger global community and look at the needs of everybody and not just Israel or not just the Palestinians, but the neighbors. We're all in this together. We're totally interconnected, interrelated, interdependent. The decisions that are made by all countries ultimately have an effect on the whole living system. And we can see that's happening today because of the climate crisis. We're killing our planet and we're killing each other. So I think that this is a creative approach to getting people to think outside the box. I hear Olivia's frustration about why it won't work, but I think we have to give something new a try. And I know we can't all get together and hear each other's stories the same way we do here in California when it's face to face and it's very personal. But we can appreciate that there are many needs out there that need to be met, and that it's going to take a lot of cooperation and a lot of new understanding about our oneness to make it work. We have to stay open to new ideas, and I just feel like the more we argue about why it won't work rather than investing in what will work is kind of a waste of our time. And I'm getting too damn old to focus on what isn't working anymore. I want to focus on some new creative ways of bringing people together in meaningful relationships that helps everybody. I know a lot of Israelis and a lot of Palestinians, many groups, many individuals who really want this, who really want to figure out how to live together peacefully and celebrate their common bloodship. They're cousins, they're related. So I had to speak up and say, occasionally I do my little lecture, that I appreciate that Joseph has hung in here for many years and that a lot of people have hung in here for many years as well, trying to look for something new.
Thank you. Thank you, Libby. Maybe move to Sean. I would just say that I do support a lot of what Libby says. I just wish that we can stop the killing and settler violence and genocide while we're talking. I don't mind talking. I don't mind even waiting for justice. But the problem is waiting for justice while your family and your people are being killed. It's a little difficult to ask sometimes. Go ahead, Sean.
All right.
Or...
Okay. I just want to mention about the I'm sure you guys, Joseph, Raja, and Jeffrey, I'm sure you guys go online dealing with talking with different random people than this meeting. And I'm obviously Joseph. I sometimes see him on TikTok and talking with random people. But have any of you noticed that I'm seeing trolls online on the social media, mostly Zionism, trolls who are spewing for propaganda narratives, and it's been coming so a lot lately, like compared to how it was years ago. And I'm hearing all these, just like that guy, Marx, that guy who was screaming, and I don't know what happened to him now, but I'm seeing this every day on the social media. Like they're saying, oh, there was only a genocide in October 7. There was no genocide after the October 7. That only occurred in October 7. And then they start saying, oh, the people who are supporting the Palestinian cause, they're not really supporting Palestine. They're just showing hatred for Jews. They're saying all these nonsense. Like honestly, I'm hearing that I don't know, but I'm hearing the Israeli government are pushing because they know the social media is spewing a lot of negative things about Israel. So the Israeli government are putting more trolls on the online and to attack anybody who says something differently than what Israel is doing. Like they if you say anything opposed to Israel, like all these and they're actually paying them this is what I'm hearing. Like they're paying those trolls to go and spew false narrative about Israel, and it's like, and they're getting paid to do it. I'm like, how's this? We don't have. I'm not getting paid to say things on the. But these guys are just constantly saying these hysteria about the, low. And now they're talking about Turkey, like they're saying Iran was an issue to Israel. Now Israel is getting angry at Turkey because Turkey's now posing a threat to Iran, calling Turkey a new Iran now, a new enemy. It's like it's I don't know what to say. And then they kept saying, "Oh, anti-Zionists are trying to harm people, trying to kill people." Like, what is all this nonsense spewing around? I'm like, and don't you get tired of this? I don't know. And some of them are phrasing about what happened to Gaza. Some of them are, happy what happened in Gaza. Like this is, and that it was a reminder that this land belongs to the Jew and the Jewish people. Like, I try to correct them. I try to show them another way. They either shut me down, or they either block me, or they just don't want to. You guys are probably dealing with this now. I think now this. What I'm saying is, I'm trying to find the good words. What I'm trying to say is now, because the criticism of Israel got so louder that now the Israeli government and the Israeli lobby are now pushing hard back at the social media, and like going after anybody who says something differently than what they want people to believe. Yeah. Anyhow, anybody want to mention this?
Yeah. Sure. Either Rajat or Jeffrey, would you like to respond before I move to?
Sure. I'll respond briefly. I was smiling the whole time and saying, you probably interact with this. Welcome to our life. I do want to say one thing to the group. As much as Mark, I'm sure it was very difficult for many of us to hear what he had to say. We talked to a lot of Marks. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that he had a nugget we can't forget, and that is that the American Jewish community is essential to this transformation. And you can't, no matter how much you know you're right about Palestine, about Gaza, about the West Bank, and you are right from a human standpoint, you are 100% right. But without significant change from the mainstream Jewish community in North America, particularly the US, things like this will never happen. And I wish that were not the case, but I'm telling you, as a Jew who's worked in this milieu for a long time, that you have to sit with the Marks of the world, where they're coming from, and if possible, get to a place where you take that good Mark, that Mark that said, I hate what Netanyahu does, and get him to be more aligned with universal moral judgment. It's a very difficult job, but I don't know a way around it.
Can I add something to that? Because the problem is, I think that, Sean, sometimes we invest a lot in social media. And I just want to remind people that some of the greatest transformations that happen in the Middle East happen because of strong leadership, not because of popular opinion. I remind us that when the negotiations with Egypt and Israel were made, when Sadat and Menachem Begin did the treaty, most Israelis were against it, most Egyptians, and I think even till today, Egyptians are against it. But now when you ask people, Israelis and Egyptians, do you think that the treaty was a mistake? I don't think the majority of people would say it was a mistake. But it took leadership to usher that in. And this is what's lacking both on the Palestinian side, especially, and on the Israeli side. Because in the Israeli side, you have cowards like Gadi Eisenkot, who is getting the popularity, but he's not telling the Israelis the reality, that this is what we need to do. He's basically caving into the hate, into the fears, and because that's what drives Israeli society. And on the Palestinian side, we see this too, because we don't have any strong leadership that are doing this as well. So even though we have social media that is changing minds and opinions of people and stuff, we still have to, it's not hitting policy, it's not hitting decision makers and leaders. And I think that's more important than what the average Joe and Schmo is talking about on Twitter. Shlomo.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Shlomo.
First of all, I'd like to continue with Mark. I in a way wish he stayed here, because he said, okay, all right, Muslim states, whatever. You want a Jewish state? Yeah, go to Patagonia, go find an island and make a Jewish state.
Yeah,
Land with,
I didn't mean for him to leave, but it's just if someone is screaming while people are talking, I have to mute him. So sorry. I didn't want him to leave, but
it's okay.
but then I also had to react
Um,
because his whole notion was you can go live in Egypt. Like I don't know about you, but you know, Egypt to me was more foreign than I've been to Egypt and I've been to Turkey, and I thought Egypt was more foreign to me than Turkey than Turkey was for me. So this whole notion that the Arabs can go live, like a Palestinian can go live in Morocco or Iraq or UAE or something. I mean, come on. It's like a Guatemalan speaks Spanish. He's predominantly Catholic country. Is he the same as a Spaniard from Spain or Argentine or a Chilean? This is ridiculous. And it's like, and if he wants to talk that, he can go live in New York. Jews can go live in New York. I mean, there was a time where there was more Jews in New York than there were in Israel. I think right now it's no longer the case. But the point is, these are just silly arguments that, you know,
he was so sensitive, like he just kind of left like
and what's weird is he started off like sounding like a progressive, and then like some light switched, and now he became this right-wing fanatic crazy. And I was like, what happened? Did I miss something? I don't know. If medication ran out, he needed his dosage change. I didn't know where he was coming from.
Maybe Alan can explain. I mean, you know him, Alan?
Yes, I'd like to say something. So I've been relating with Mark for a couple of years, actually. Yeah, he is very active as a critic of Israel and of the Jewish community and supporting Israel. He is a Zionist. He thinks that's okay. He is for equal rights for everyone. He believes that Israel had the right to be created. And in some way, this federation, the Israeli government can continue. And he says the Israeli government is there as a government, as a state for the Jewish people, not negating the other people. He's not for all the everybody being kicked out. He doesn't like any of that. So when it got to be whether Israel itself could be a state for the Jewish people, and it got heated, he said enough of that. But it was not really addressing the question of the confederation, of how the Israeli government and the Palestinian government and a joint federation could be cooperative. So it got out of hand, and I will have no doubt some conversation with him when I get back to Ann Arbor. I'm actually in France now.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say is that when I did make a note that as long as the United States supports Israel in the way it does, there's not going to be a significant change. And the resolution, the legislation that was being discussed did not include conversation with the external partners in this war system, the United States and Russia and China and the European nations that are all deeply involved in these wars and working out their own pipeline politics of how we get the oil. And so this was a limited piece of legislation that is a good idea, but none of these conversations are going to be successful in that legislation without dealing with the larger system of war and domination. And the one thing that I want to put into the conversation is that basically, in the big picture, for the last 5,000 years, we've been dealing with a system of total domination, what the Pentagon says, full spectrum domination. That is the war system of patriarchy, of hierarchy, of imposition, of impunity, of command, and ultimately of violence and war, and whatever and might makes right. And that is a system that we need to be critical of. And there is another system before 5,000 years ago, and what should begin today is the system of peace, which is full spectrum cooperation. We need system change. And we see, and that is a view of how the countries of the Middle East can be cooperative, how the Palestinian refugees can come back to their land in a cooperative way and build an economic development in that area with the Jews to actually be a productive for everyone. So it's a system change much larger than simply a confederation that seeks to work in the areas where they are permitted and free cooperation with Israel, which is a state of the Jewish people. That's the way it is. It should have equal rights for everyone, and the UN resolutions is 914, 4149, 194, and so on, should all be implemented. But I think the larger picture is we are part of looking at a system of system change, and it is a war system all over the world, and we need to change that.
I'm sorry, Alan, let me interrupt because I think we're going to lose one of our guests. So Raja, I think you said you have to go. I want to thank you for your participation. Do appreciate it and hope we can keep in touch. Jeffrey, if you're good to continue, we can go on maybe with one or two more.
I also have to go. I want to thank Raja and Jeffrey.
Okay, so let's wrap it up.
Wait a second. I just started talking and I want to
one sec, because Raja's gonna go. So let's say goodbye to Raja and Jeffrey. I'm sorry.
I'll stay
So
I'll stay till 5 after, and then I really do have to go.
Okay, so let's go for one more. I'm sorry, Alan. We gotta sum it up. We like hearing from you. So I would like to, Shlomo, can you make it quick?
I have just one sentence to say that the problem is Zionism. And the Zionism has two parts. One part is the Jews need the land. Okay, I understand it. I grew up with it. This is a brainwash that I went through all my life. Okay, and then there is the other side. Go into the Middle East. Why not Manhattan? Why go and throw out all the people in Manhattan, leave only the Jews? Why do you do it in Palestine? To the land without people, to people without land. What is this? This was a big lie, and all the Jews still stick to it. And somehow, and this guy Mark blamed the Arabs, blamed the Palestinians. He said, it's not only the Jewish fault. Sorry, no, it is fully the Zionist fault. Sorry, 100%.
Yep.
Okay, so number one. Number two, I forgot. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Shlomo.
That's a great conclusion, I think. And so thank you, Jeffrey, both Jeffrey and Raja.
Can I ask Joseph a question before wrapping it up?
Okay, but if they need to leave, they can. I think Raja just left. Go ahead. Let's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
We're easy to get a hold of. If any of you ever want to talk to us, we're super easy to get a hold of. So take care.
Yeah, definitely would like to. I would like to.
Can I give you your email address?
Of course you can.
Can you send it? Can you send it to me, Joseph? I really would like to follow up with Jeffrey.
Of course.
Me too.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, go ahead.
Take care.
Go ahead. Thanks. Sean, I think Joseph has to leave soon, so can you wrap it up in 15 seconds?
Yeah, okay. Joseph, before you go, I'm trying to invite people to come into the simulation, but I don't think they're listening to me. But if I can give you their info, can you talk to them? Maybe you have better words to tell them to join than me. I don't know, because I was trying to reach out.
Give me their email address.
Stanley Cohen, Ariel Gold, Tony Greenstein.
No.
You know them?
Yeah. Yes, Tony Greenstein. Yes. What about him?
What about him is I try to reach out to him to ask him if he had joined the stimulation, because I think he'd be a good he would like our movement, and I want him to be aware of us so he can be part of the movement. That's my take.
I have his email, by the way, and I have his book. It's like almost my new Bible is his book. Zionism during the Holocaust. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, send it to me. I'll invite him to be a speaker.
Okay, well, hopefully he'll, because I have more to. Okay, anyhow, that's it.
All right, thank you. We'll see you on September 6th. Hopefully, we'll have very good news at that time. All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nassim.